landlord, and that you ask either for a rent reduction during lockdown or deferment. If you do get any of those from your landlord, then make sure you get it all in writing, because you don't want them then to be able to come back to you in the future and try and hit you with a stick of some description. So that's the two sorts of grants that are available in the United Kingdom. Loans. So the beauty of the grant, of course, is they're just that. You never have to repay them. The loans that you may recall sort of back in March, so pushing on for 12 months ago, there are several different sorts of loans that you can take that you do through your retail bank. Let's just say Barclays, Santander, whoever. I think the best one for salons is the bounce back loan, which gives you no repayments and interest free for 12 months, and that's up to £50,000 based on your turnover. Now, I know a lot of you will have already taken a bounce back loan. Two things really I would add. So firstly, if you didn't take the full amount that you're entitled to, and the amount is based on your turnover, if you didn't take the full amount and you now think you may need it, most banks will allow you to top up the bounce back loan that you took back earlier in 2020. Secondly, we're fast coming upon the point at which the repayments on an initial bounce back loan would need to start being made, because it's only the first 12 months that it's no repayments and no interest. So, for example, if you took out a bounce back loan on the 1st of April 2020, come the 1st of April 21, where we may or may not be back open again, you need to start repaying that. So my advice would be you need to speak to your bank now about those bounce back loans. The banks may have some flexibility in extending that interest-free, repayment-free period. But I think that is down to each individual bank. I know what you can't do is take more than one bounce back loan out per business. So you can't get to your 12 months, repay one you've taken, and then take another. That's absolutely, clearly not allowed. So definitely worth speaking to your retail bank about that, because those repayments are going to start to hurt, and they're all going to come at the wrong time when we've got other bills that we're going to need to start paying. Okay, so we'll come on to sort of the furlough and self-employed income support. So just a quick reminder that the third tranche of the self-employed income support opened on the 30th of November and it closes on the 29th of January. So if you haven't already applied for your third tranche of the self-employed income support, then you need to do so very, very quickly in the next 2 weeks. Once that deadline's gone, that's it. You won't be able to apply for the third section of those. Of course, there is a fourth as well, and I think it's extremely likely that there's going to be a fifth self-employed grant, because it mimics the furlough scheme. The furlough scheme has been extended until April. So therefore, it is logical and fair, frankly, that the self-employed grant is also given another tranche. We'll keep an eye on that, and if anything like that does come up, we will let you know straight away. I'm sure it will be the same as before, that if you qualified for the first two, the third and the fourth, then you would qualify for the fifth as well, because again, that's only fair, really. Furlough. We've had loads of questions about furlough, because I hope that you've put all of your staff either on full furlough or on flexible furlough. already. A couple of things I think worth just reinforcing about the furlough scheme for employees. So firstly, you need to give them a new letter now, even if they were furloughed in the past. The reason that you need to give them a new furlough letter now is because, of course, they came back to work full-time in the interim. It's really important that you do make sure that you get those letters to them in the next week or so. They're all available through our website for you to complete. Worth noting that if an employee is furloughed 100% of the time, they can't do any work for you at all. And that would include doing things like phoning clients and posting comments on social media. And this kind of leads us into the furloughing of directors, which, if a director is an employee and is on payroll, there is no reason why you can't furlough yourself as the director, as long as you then don't do any work which is seen as benefiting the business financially. So you're allowed to do statutory tasks as a furloughed director, but they're extremely limited, doing things like reporting to Companies House. So my advice as a director would be to furlough yourself for some of the time, let's just say 90% of the time, and that then gives you the flexibility in that 10% of the time to do all of the small jobs that need to be done. You then, when you come to claim your furlough money, you say that you've worked for X hours out of a total of Y hours in the month, and that then makes sure you're not breaking the rules. You don't need to state when those working hours were. So they can be split. Let's say you had 10 working hours, they can be split across the month. And as I say, you don't need to be able to state when they were, although I would keep a general record of those hours that you've worked in case you did have a PAYE inspection. Very unlikely, though. I think that probably is. Holidays. This is something that is dear to Yasmin's heart, and Damien. They raised a very good question earlier last week, which was, when you have furloughed staff, are you able to make them take holiday whilst they're furloughed? And what is the position in rolling holiday over to the next holiday year? And originally, when we started off back almost 12 months ago, employees had the right to roll holiday over for 2 years, which was really bad, because it means that, of course, when we get back to work, everybody's got a lot of holiday that they want to take, and as a result, they will then be off a lot. However, the government realised this and have changed the rules so that now, as long as it is reasonable, you can make staff take holiday whilst furloughed. They remain furloughed during that time, so you can claim the 80%, but you need, and it's very important that you top up the 20% of their pay whilst they're on holiday. So they are earning exactly the same as they would have been had they been on a true holiday when we were all working. A couple of little caveats with it is that you need to make sure that you're giving double the notice of the length of holiday that you're demanding an employee take. So if you want them to take a week's leave, you need to give them 2 weeks' notice. That needs to be done in writing, not on text or WhatsApp. It needs to be done in writing. And again, I produced a letter that you can use as a template on our website. So, please do make sure you use that. It's a really good idea to make people use their holiday now if you can afford that 20%, because it avoids you having a problem when you come back to work whenever that's going to be. Linked with that is a really important point about furlough and maternity leave. You know, we're 9 months since people were locked down and didn't have anything else to do, so it's likely there's going to be quite a few staff who are now expecting, or very close to, their due date. And you know, where do you stand in terms of furloughed employees who then go on to maternity leave? So if you are paying statutory maternity pay, so there's no enhancement in terms of what you give an employee, then you cannot then be furloughed and on maternity pay. And the reason for that is because you already claim back the maternity pay from the government. So there's no reason for you then to need to furlough them also. If, however, you enhance the maternity pay that employee receives, and most salons don't, but if you did, you were to give them more than the statutory minimum, then they can be furloughed, and you then claim that 80% back. As with all things with maternity, complicated and fraught with risk, so by all means pick up the phone, and I'm really happy to have a chat with you about kind of your particular circumstances, obviously with the standard caveat that we're not lawyers. One of the other areas that we've had a lot on this past week or so is this really irritating habit of employees who are furloughed going and then doing home hairdressing. So they're employed by you, they're furloughed by you, and they then go out and either do private clients or your clients at home. This is completely unacceptable. And a couple of things I'd say, really. So firstly, if you find out that an employee is doing this, perhaps because they have to advertise themselves to do it, so you know they can't remain totally hidden. So if you're seeing that people are doing that, then my advice is you take a very strong line with disciplinary action, and you would be wise to hold a disciplinary hearing. And I would think that doing this sort of thing whilst furloughed would cross the bar for gross misconduct. So that would be instant dismissal. As an aside, you can't be furloughed whilst you are holding a disciplinary meeting, so you just need to flex furlough people whilst you are holding those meetings. But you are able to hold disciplinary meetings over Zoom or any other video software. You don't have to be face-to-face, but just remember you need to give them all the evidence that you're going to use in that disciplinary hearing in advance, and there are some specific letters that you need to send to them at specific times. Again, all of that's on our website to use. Finally, on furlough, and big thanks to Neil, who I know's with us here today, for starting this campaign to make the government see some sense about the fact that small employers are having to pay national insurance and pension contributions, even though those employees are furloughed. And it's complete nonsense in my mind. It's totally counterintuitive for the government to give money with one hand and then take away with the other. It just seems crazy to me. And with no other income, you know, that national insurance and pension contributions are really either, you know, eating into the government grants that you're receiving, or in some cases, particularly for larger employers, you know, those national insurance and pension contributions are going to be greater than the amount of government grant, and it just seems totally unfair. So there's a petition, a government petition going round, which I'd really encourage you to sign, and please to get all your staff to sign too, because of course it's in their interests for their employer to be financially secure and sound. And so that petition's up on our Facebook page and all the other social media channels that we've got. yeah, please encourage as many as you can to sign what is a really worthwhile and valuable cause. Tax. Nobody likes talking about tax, but tax deadlines continue to fall due during this pandemic and during the closure. So a couple of things to say about that. I'm just going to make sure I read my notes here because I don't want to get anything wrong with tax. So VAT payments, you may have deferred them between the period of the 20th of March and the 30th of June of last year. And, you know, if you've still got payments to make on those, really there are three options for you with HMRC. So firstly, you pay it all before the 31st of March 21. That's the deadline for any deferred VAT to be paid. Secondly, HMRC are going to be launching a new VAT deferment scheme in the next couple of weeks, and you're able to roll any existing deferred payments into that new scheme. The new scheme, we don't quite know how it's going to work, but what we do know is that only you as the taxpayer will be able to register for that scheme. You can't get your accountant to do it for you. Seems silly. I don't understand why that would be. Your accountant can deal with all of your other tax affairs, but the government have already been clear that this new scheme can only be applied for by the taxpayer themselves. So that's definitely something to speak to your accountant about. Again, when we find information out, we'll post it up for you to be able to follow those links. Finally, if you're struggling with any of your tax, whether that is your PAYE or your VAT, you really must engage with HMRC straight away. For the first time ever, they are actually being quite helpful with those sorts of things, I believe. And there's a telephone number which is 0800 024 1222. Again, we'll pop that up on social media. But that's the number you call in order to speak to HMRC about any tax issues that you may have. That also counts for personal tax as well. They're being pretty flexible. Although you have to submit on time for personal tax, you are able to do a payment plan and defer those payments for some time. And the longer this goes on, you know, the longer those deferments are going to have to be to help people. That's all I've got about tax, furlough, those sorts of things. Two other things really to add. So firstly, of course, you will all have a PRS PPL music license, which everybody hates, but if you play music of any sort, you've got to have. They're being really good for the first time ever about allowing you to get a rebate on the time that your shop is closed. So they don't do that automatically. You have to contact them in order to do so. Their phone number is 0800 0720 808. And they're giving you those rebates in one of two ways. Either you get a check in the post, or more normally, they discount it off your next PRS PPL invoice, which is, yeah, I suppose better than nothing. And Natalie has asked a question: is there any other type of music that you can play? And the answer to that is yes, as long as it is license free. The challenge is finding true license free music that you'd actually want to listen to, because a lot of it's rubbish. And you know, a big part of the ambience in a salon is listening to some of the songs that people might know. So you know, it really, I'm afraid it's one of those things that I think we can't really dodge, and I would not advise dodging. You know, it's too easy for salons to be identifiable as places that normally play music, and for them to then send you a bill and to take you to court. So yeah, You can, Natalie, but not so easily. Finally, using the time that we've got now for staff, just in terms of things like updating your staff contracts. I know we spoke about this a bit earlier, Natalie, but use this time to update your staff contracts. We've got some new ones that we put up on our website in the members area last week, new written statements, new details of employment. So it's well worth just using this time to make sure that all of your staff contracts are up to date and actually reflect what's truly happening in the salon. Also, why not carry out your appraisals with your staff? Have a formal appraisal with them. Go through all of the details of the things that they could be improving, the areas you want them to work with, and on training. Again, a slight question mark about whether you could do that whilst furloughed. You're allowed to carry out training whilst furloughed. Not really sure whether you're allowed to carry out an appraisal because that's performance management, but well worth the half an hour per person that it would take, because it does sort of set the tone out nicely for when you are coming back to work, whenever that will be. And that leads me on to the question I get asked pretty much every day, which is, when do I think that, and when do Good Salon Guide think that we'll be going back to work and we'll be able to open our doors again? The honest answer is, I know no better than the rest of you. My personal view is that, the government in England certainly have said that the schools are closed until the February half term. So that means the earliest possible date that we could be reopening would be the week after the 22nd of February, because it's inconceivable for schools to be closed and for us not to be in a lockdown of some sort, because how are parents supposed to manage their children? However, I think it likely that our lockdown will go on considerably longer than that, and is likely to run through until at least the middle or end of March, when the weather starts to improve, the flu, the winter flu started to die down and more people are vaccinated. However, I really, really hope I'm wrong, because that's a very, very long time for us all to remain closed. And it's a very long time for us to convince our clients that they shouldn't be trying things at home, and they shouldn't be either using box colour or carrying out home treatments. And also, it increases the risk of our staff going and doing home services. That's why I think it's really important to take such a strong action against anybody you do find is carrying out home services, because it will hopefully make an example of them, and stop your other employees from doing so. Finally, just a couple of little things about maybe going into the salon and turning the hot water on, making sure all those sorts of things are working well, so that there's no issues in terms of damage or freezing pipes or anything like that when you come to return to work, because we're unlikely to get a lot of notice when we do want to come back in. So that's all from me for the Mo. If you guys have got any queries or questions, now is the time to pop them on the chat or on the question and answer. Of course, we are available on the phone and on social media and email if you want to ask something a little bit more in depth, that privately, please do. Cool, excellent. All right, well, thank you for your time, everybody. Lovely to see you and talk to you. And we will be running another one of these webinars in the next couple of weeks. And if there's anybody in particular that you would like to hear from, I'm thinking perhaps in terms of business, marketing, those sorts of things. If there's anybody in particular you'd like to hear from, please just let us know, because we can we can contact them and see if we can get them to join us. Which is always good to have some other panelists as well. So yeah, thank you very much. Have a good rest of your day, and look forward to speaking to you soon. Cheers, bye.